All right, Shalom. Start first by giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahushai, Call Hello, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, HaKodash Rakah, Ba'ashem HaKodash Rakah. Double honor to the elder apostles and elders at Great Millstone who rule well, and greetings, salutations, and blessings unto the elect, those that will receive salvation in these last days. Shalom unto you. All right, just want to go into a couple of words, a couple of scriptures I was reading, and it just made me think about the ways that people are today versus the way that the elect will be in these same times. You know, the ways of the people, especially these wacky Christians, these scoffers, you know, they're SS So Real and all these guys, man. You know, Vocab Malone. You just name what they represent, the mind state of the people of the world. They can't get past the spiritual connotations of the word because they're not spiritual. They're too carnal. They're using their natural senses versus their spiritual senses. They don't know how to switch. The Most High Yahweh hasn't switched over their minds from being fleshly into being or carnal into being spiritual. So I'm gonna read a couple scripts and then I'm gonna go into a couple of words. I'll start here with Romans 8 verse 1. It says, there is therefore no condemnation to them that are in Yahweh Mashiach Yahweh, which is the name of who you ignorantly call Jesus Christ. Right? It says, who walk not after the flesh, but after the spirit. For us that if we walk after the flesh, we're all about the law, because the law was a fleshly thing. You know, it was spiritually created, but it was followed after the flesh. That's why it couldn't be kept 100%. Now we keep it in the spirit to the best of our abilities, right? It says, for the law of the spirit of life in Hamashiach Yahushai has made me free from the law of sin and death. Because we're not saved by the law, we're saved through faith, which faith is a spiritual thing. But through faith in that spiritual law, you know, we keep the law. That physically proves that we have spiritual faith. It says, verse 3, it says, for what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, that's what I was saying, the Most High Yahweh sending his own Son Yahushai in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh. It says that the righteousness of the law, you know, I mean, that shouldn't need breaking down. Verse 3 shouldn't need breaking down. The Most High sent his Son down to prove that a man upon the earth, you know, could go through all this temptation and still not sin. And Yahushua was the only one who you're going to call Jesus Christ, was the only one that succeeded in that. And so it says that verse 4 says that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the spirit. It says, for they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh. That's why these guys can't get it. You know, because they're too busy thinking about their flesh. They don't know how to click over from being what's tangible to what's actually, or what they see with their eyes versus what they can feel, or I don't want to say feel, but what they can see spiritually. Their spiritual eyes haven't been, their third eye, so to speak, hasn't been opened up. It says, for they that are after the flesh do mind the things after the flesh, but they that are after the spirit, the things of the spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, and to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Yeah, because we don't have to sweat over the small stuff anymore, right? But we do, because we keep it to the best of our ability. We want to make sure that we're walking circumspect, that we're not going off anywhere, especially as an example unto the flock, but more so just in sincerity. It says, because the carnal mind is enmity against the Most High, for it is not subject to the law of the Most High, neither indeed can be. right? So we're going to go into this word carnal. Sarx. And we're going to go into this word, because when we call here at Great Millstone, anyway, I could speak for. When we call somebody carnal, this is basically what we're saying about you. Sarx, it's a Greek word. It was a G. Where'd it go? Come on, man. It was where'd it go? G5427, I believe it is. It's not letting me get it. Anyway, so reading on. It says, flesh, the soft substance of the living body, which covers the bones and is permeated with blood of both man and beast. The body of man, used of natural or physical origin, generation, or relationship born of natural generation. Now here's the main point. The sensuous nature of man, the animal nature. Yes. Because in this animal nature, and that's something to go deeper into, but in this animal nature, this is what we were created as. Like a lot of these guys, like it says, as natural brute beasts and all of that. A lot of these guys think with that nature from before we were created as Adam, when we were just a physical male and female living being, back in the garden, that was created, I believe, on the fourth day, all living creature was created. That was that natural beast that was created. But on the fifth day, the Most High created man. He made male and female. If you go into the precepts, whether it be Genesis, the first chapter, or even Genesis, the second chapter, where he created man, into Genesis and female in that chapter, and then even jumping over to I think it's Genesis, the fifth chapter. Anyway, it says the sensuous nature of man, the animal nature, without any suggestion or depravity, the animal nature of cravings which incite to sin, the physical nature of man as subjecting to suffering. Because a lot of you guys too busy worried about how you feel, how your flesh is, or what's appealing to your flesh, versus making spiritual decisions. It says a living creature, because possessed of a body of flesh, whether man or beast. It says the flesh denotes mere human nature and earthly nature of man, apart from divine influence. That's the spirit is a divine influence, but a lot of you guys think with your natural minds and forgetting the fact that a natural man told you what these spiritual things were. Now, when I say that, I mean like so-called white man who runs the church, these theology, your church pastors, they the one that told you what these scriptures meant. But they were thinking from a carnal or natural or sensuous perspective, missing the fact that is really supposed to be a spiritual thing, and you need to get it from somebody that was spiritual, chosen from the Most High, right? It says the flesh denotes mere human nature, the earthly nature of man, apart from divine influence, and therefore prone to sin and opposed to the Most High God, because the Most High God is spiritual. Let me see. Now I'm gonna go into let me come out of this. I come out of this. Right there. And let's go into Jude. See if we can get no, okay. Go all the way back up. Jude, I'm gonna start at 1 and 15. It says, to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all the ungodly, all that are ungodly among them, of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. These are murmurers, complainers, walking after their own lusts, and in their mouths speak great swelling words, having men's persons in admiration because of advantage. Yeah, they're thinking with their carnal mind. That because the law, like when you go deeper into the law, when it said don't be covetous, that's a natural jealous nature. That's a natural way to look at something spiritual. It's saying basically don't desire something to yourself that's not for you. You know? So when you're not being covetous, as an example, you know, you're in a sense of being content with what you were given. You're spiritual about, okay, this is what the Most High feels that I deserve, and this is what it is. Versus the unnatural man being like, okay, I see what he has, the Most High gave him, and I want that. You can go to Cain and Abel. There's plenty of examples of that in the scripture. Anyway, it says, verse 17, it says, but beloved, remember ye the words which were spoken before the apostles of our Lord Yahushua Mashiach, and that whole beloved thing is his elect. It's really supposed to be the whole nation of Israel, but 2/3 of our people are brute beasts, natural, sensual, carnal, and so they're not in the proper spirit of the Most High God through our Lord. It says, verse 18, how that they told you there should be mockers in the last time who should walk after their own ungodly lusts. And that's a lot of you Christians out there that or you scoffers that just want to debunk the Bible, that just want to slander the men of the Lord, whether it's the Avengers or whoever the hell. They're just out there to slander and to demonize and try to break down this thing that the Most High God has set up. It says, these be they who separate themselves, sensual, not having the Spirit. So if it's sensual, not having the Spirit, it's a similar word to carnal, but we're going to go into the breakdown to the Greek of it. The word is psychikos, psychikos, something like that. Let's see here. It says of or belonging to breath. It says having the nature and characteristics of the breath. Now, what's the breath? When you go spiritually into what the breath, when on Genesis the 2nd chapter, when he created Adam and he gave him the breath of life, what was that? He gave him this wisdom and the orders that made him man upon the earth, that made him better as man upon the earth. That was the breath of life that he gave Adam. That's that same breath. And these guys being sensual, they don't have that breath. It says the principle of animal life. We're not supposed to be animals, though we're created in the nature of animals. It says, which men have in common with brutes, governed by breath, the sensuous nature, which is subject to appetite and passion. Yeah, the things that you really want because of your fleshly desires, your lust. That's that part. Let's see what we got. That wasn't what I wanted right there. Let's see. It was another. Let's see. No, that was it. Natural, sensual, right? Yeah, so that was it there. But the point I'm making here is basically, here we go. It says animate in distinction, sensitive, animate in distinction of one, on the one hand, from which is higher or renovated nature, on the other, which is the lower of bestial nature. Yeah, natural, sensual. That's the difference, man. Where you're being natural or carnal or sensual versus being spiritual. The Most High requires us to be spiritual, to look at His Word spiritually. When you go into Genesis the 3rd chapter and it's talking about the serpent, you got to be spiritual. You can't be natural, because if you're being natural, which we know those breakdowns are this way, you're thinking of a real reptile that's slithering across the floor that rolls up and begin to talk. to Eve. But that's not what happened. When you're being spiritual, you can see that that was the nature of a man. He had a real cunning and deceptive tongue and nature about him. Right? That was the type of spirit he had, was like a snake. And he rose up and started speaking to Eve and deceived Eve to where she passed that deception on to Adam. You know, the same thing when it comes to the knowledge of the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. That fruit isn't a natural fruit. It's not an apple. It's not a plum or nothing like that. It's literally just information that can grow within you. That's what those trees represent. That tree in particular, the knowledge of good and evil that will grow like a tree and sprout fruit. And what was that fruit that it sprouted from off that tree? It was sin. And why? Because there was a carnal nature from Eve that wanted that. She wanted the fruit. She wanted the fruit of what the serpent was talking about, because she was carnal. She wasn't dealing with things spiritual. If she would have been dealing with it spiritually, she would understand that she would just stay in her place. Adam would have stayed in his place. She'd ignored the serpent, and things would have been sublime like it was back in the garden. But this was a big scheme, a big plan, so to speak, of the Most High to set it up so he could share that spiritual life, truly share with us. Talking about his chosen people. Not everybody, but his chosen people. With that, I'm going to close out, man. Lord willing, you guys understand not to be carnal, that this is a spiritual thing, and we got to remain spiritual in this thing. We got to stay on target with what this thing is really about, man. It's about being spiritual. So when as these times get tougher and tougher and the heat gets turned up, we have to make sure that we're making the spiritual decisions and that we're not making the carnal decisions. Not to say you can't have your things that attend to your flesh, but you even got to make those decisions about your carnal flesh and your carnal desires in a spiritual way. Because if you just go out and straight make a carnal decision and mess around, have a nigga moment, it can cost you everything. That's the times that we're coming into. So you guys that's coming into this thing, man, make sure you get your reading in, studying. All of this stuff is gonna matter. Fasting if you need to. I always gonna push fasting, and prayer. Whether you're fasting or not, prayer is huge. There should be multiple prayers every day. Not that you have to go into a closet and close the door and cut the light off and sit. No, that's not the point. Pray in your mind, in your daily life, man. When you see certain things, the water you have about you may ask for something for a brother. You may ask for something for yourself or a family member or a situation, but you got to be spiritual with this thing. So, I'm going to close out giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh Rakah. Double honor to the elder apostles and elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Greetings, salutations, and blessings unto the elect, those that will receive salvation. Shalom.